Now I'm trying my first trike ever. This is the 2016 Harley Davidson Freewheeler Trike. And after a 20-minute video, I hopefully am ready to ride this thing. So let's see. It feels so weird to ride it though, because you don't have to counter steer or anything like that. So kind of getting used to the aspect of the whole three-wheel track and everything like that, and turning the correct direction, because you know counter steering is usually what you do on a motorcycle. Okay, let's go ahead and take a stop here. We'll keep my foot on the boards this time. There we go. It feels so weird. I mean, it feels like it's tracking so oddly. I need to kind of hit the middle here because I'm wider than normal. But other than that, I mean, it's kind of like riding your own motorcycle, you know. Just when you pull, it actually goes the direction you're going with. And that's kind of different for me. So let's take a look here. Now this is powered by the 103. I'm not really concerned about weight or anything like that. These Trikes typically start about $22,000, but they do everything the same as your motorcycle. They shift the same, they have the same controls and everything like that. They're all the same. Let's go ahead and keep going here. I just don't feel like I want to turn too quick. It does have a heel toe shifter, which is quite nice. Power is distributed very well. I actually like the way it accelerates for such a big brutish thing. It does just fine. Now the ergonomics and the controls are slightly different on this particular model. Now it does have a tank mounted gas gauge, or not gas gauge, but does have the gas gauge on the tank, but speedometer, which, you know, one of those things I don't like, but it's there. And on the right side, same thing for typical Harley Davidsons. You have your start stop mechanism, hazards, and all that good stuff, and your right turn signal. On the left side, you got an extra thing. You've got the cruise control system that you can control on the bottom here with this joystick. You have the information display button on the back end of it between the handlebar and the clutch. And then you have the horn, the bright select, and the reverse switch. Yes, Trikes have a reverse. So you can actually put this Trike in reverse. It's an electric motor independent of the actual engine itself. So whenever it engages, you're actually engaged with the electric motor, and you do not control it with the throttle that you normally would with the gas motor. So that was something I was unexpecting. I was actually expecting it to be tied to the main transmission, but it is an electric motor that actually pulls this bike. How you engage it is you tap it until it turns to an R on the display here, and then you hold it and it starts pulling the bike backwards for you with that electric motor. So completely different than I thought it would be. And you know, kind of expecting a little bit difference. Now this thing just does not feel right whenever you're doing this. When you go these slight turns, you can feel the three wheels pulling you, or the two other wheels in the back, you know, kind of snaking around. It just doesn't feel quite natural for a two-wheel rider. You know, I feel like I feel completely discombobulated right now, because it just doesn't feel like when I turn it's going the right direction. It feels like it's going completely opposite of what I want it to do. So it throws me off really nicely. Let's see, let's get over here in this lane here and get ready for a turn. This will be my first turn that it's not quite a regular turn here. Oh no, it's going to stop. Yay. I was wondering about that. Okay, this time I'm remembering to keep my foot on the boards. It's a hard thing to remember, is to keep your foot on the boards when you're so used to two-wheeled riding. Alrighty. Feels like you're going to tip over. That's my honest opinion of that. Power's still great. Like I said, I mean, the 103 powers this beast pretty decently. Gets up to speed just fine. Transmission is nice and simple to use. Clicks in, clicks out just fine. Engine braking is just as good as the 103 normally is. So, I mean, it is like riding a regular motorcycle, but not quite the same sensations. Like I said, whenever you do this, you feel the back end actually kind of snaking around. It just feels so weird. It's like an independent action, you know. Whenever you're on a motorcycle, you turn and it's all the same fluid motion. And this one, it feels like you got one end trying to do one thing and the other trying to do the other. So it doesn't even feel like a car. It feels completely unnatural, really. Now, the Freewheeler is not like the Ultra Trike that they've got out there. The Freewheeler is a little bit basic. Kind of think of it as like a Fat Boy or something like that in the front end. It doesn't have a batwing fairing. It just has this clip-on windshield. It doesn't have the trunks in the back. It does have some space between the wheels, but doesn't have the trunk that rises above and all that stuff for the back passenger. So it just has a sissy bar style backrest. I'll take some pictures of this thing whenever I get off of it. Other than that, you got the standard affair from Harley-Davidson when it comes to the gauges and how they read. You've got the left and right turn signals, bright selection, oil press, and neutral light below the speedometer. And then you've got on the speedometer the reverse indication, park brake indication, which is another thing this thing has that a normal motorcycle doesn't have. And then battery, ABS, and check engine light and security system. Now, the park brake on this thing is just on the left side of the bike here. It's on the transmission side. So you actually press it down to lock it in place after you park the bike. And then whenever you're done with the brake, you just tap it again and it comes back up, kind of like your normal car. So it's not completely foreign, it's just different. It pulls really well. I mean, it does very well. Just not natural. But still kind of fun. I need to try a Goldwing trike. I know that there's not anything native that's Goldwing. They have to be added on. And that's the thing. The Harley trikes, they are actually built from the ground up as a three-wheel chassis. They're not like the Goldwings or some of the others you see where they're kits, where they literally bolt them onto the frame of a two-wheeler. These are actually designed from the ground up to be this way. And this is not like the Can-Am Spyder at all, which I need to try to ride one of those too, but they don't have them here this time. But this one is the normal configuration where you got the single wheel up front and the double wheel in the back. So that's the sensation you get. Is, like I said, it just kind of feels like they're independently acting from each other. So completely different than your normal experience. And I don't know if some Can-Am guys can get on here and let me know what the sensation is on that. I've heard those are kind of like an ATV because they got those two front wheels versus the back wheels here, and it turns more or less like an ATV because you have the handlebars and things like that, and you're on that straddled seat. Or saddle seat, I should say. So, at any rate, when it comes to the first experience of the trike, I mean, if this is something that you guys are interested in, you know, say that you're just not comfortable on a two-wheeler, but you do want to experience the sensations you get on a two-wheeler, this is actually very much, you know, except for the turning and things like that, this is going to be very much the same sensations. You're in the wind, you're enjoying the wide open space. I mean, it's just as great. It's a little bit more comfortable. You don't have to do as much as you do on a two-wheeler. You don't have to try to balance it out. You don't have to try to hold weight or anything like that, because it does it itself. It stays upright the whole time. So there's no counter steering involved. When you turn to the right, when you actually pull it towards you, it goes to the right instead of goes to the left. You know, so, or, you know, such as the other way, go left and it goes left instead of right. So it's just an awkward sensation, but I mean, if you want to get out in the wind and you got a spare $21,000 floating around, this is the bike or trike or whatever you want to call it for you. I mean, this is not a bad thing. Like I said, it comes directly from the factory as a trike, built as a trike, so that does help out quite a bit. I'm pretty sure the Goldwings that are in this configuration probably handle much the same way, probably faster, because the 6-cylinder on those are better. And Goldwings are a comfortable bike. They're just big, plush, and more like a car than a bike. But, you know, it's one of those things of if you got to get out in the wind and you don't want to do two wheels, I highly recommend a trike from Harley or Honda or any of those. I mean, this is the first time I ever rode one, and I gotta say, it's not a bad thing at all. It's actually very comfortable and very... you know, just kind of stunning. You know, it just doesn't quite get you. Now, a few other things here on the safety of these things. Unlike a two-wheeler, you can't quite dodge items that are ahead of you. So what you try to do is you try to aim for the item, say like a tree branch or something like that, and you hit it right down the center line, you know, and do your best to get there. Whenever you come onto it, you roll the throttle a little bit, and then before it gets to the rear wheels, back off the throttle. So that's kind of the thing they teach you in the safety thing whenever you're doing these bikes. So, and also just be aware that you do have that third wheel, and it sticks out quite a bit. So you need to be aware of the location of your third wheel and how it's going to handle. This feels so unnatural. So, at any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog. If you have any more questions about the 2016 Harley-Davidson Freewheeler, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to get back with you. If you're interested in trikes, for sure. I mean, suspension and everything's great. Everything's great on this thing. I mean, it does everything good that I can tell. I mean, being the first time on a trike, couldn't tell you any different. At any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog. Y'all keep the shiny side up, and we'll catch you on the flip side.